Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. We're in the process of moving from this project where we used Prism to this project where we are not going to use Prism. In this video, we're working toward a substitute for Prism's bindable base. To start, we're just going to create an MVVM Base project, and we're going to use the Eclipse script wizard. We don't have to do this. We could just create a class library, but we're just going to use this to get us started. So we'll create a binary plugin, we'll name it, and we'll open up Visual Studio. Once it's open, we actually won't need this. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this part. And we're going to add in a couple of folders. So we'll add in a models folder and we'll add in a view models. In our models folder, we're going to add in a new class. This is going to be our base class. So this is going to be an observable object. We'll make it public. And in here, we need to implement the INotifyPropertyChanged interface. That's going to bring in the event handler property changed. And then I'm going to paste in a method that we can use to invoke this event handler. In our view models folder, let's add a view model base. And in this, we're going to inherit from our observable object. The other thing that we're going to add into this view model base is this dispose method. It's virtual, so we can override it. And essentially, this will give us a clean way to unsubscribe from any events that we've subscribed to in the view model. There's a video from Singleton Sean, goes into this in much more depth, but essentially, if you don't clean up your view model and you're creating multiple instances of it throughout the life cycle of your application, then it can lead to memory leaks. So we'll just add this dispose method so that we can override it and we can unsubscribe from anything that we've subscribed to. I want to give an example of how we can use this onProperty and why we need to use this onPropertyChanged. So if you've seen this plenty of times before, feel free to skip ahead, but I'm going to add in just a quick sample project. The first thing that we need to do is we need to set this as our startup project. We can see that it has a rectangle model, view model, and a main view. So just really quickly, we'll go over the rectangle. So it has just a few properties. It has length, width, perimeter, and area properties. And our main view was just a basic stack panel. And then each row is made up of another stack panel that has orientation of horizontal. So we'll have a label and a text box. So an input box where we can change the length and also the width. And then we'll display the perimeter and the area. And so we're binding to those. So this is hopefully a good example of how you can use binding. In our app.xaml.cs, we have an application startup. So on startup, we're going to create a new instance of the main view, and we're going to set the data context to the main view model. Essentially, it's just a rectangle. In the constructor, we create an instance of the rectangle. We can go ahead and start it, and right off the bat, as soon as we change things, nothing happens, right? So we know that we're binding to these properties, but nothing is being updated. So the first thing that you might think of is to say, oh, well, we need to update the view that this rectangle has changed. So we can inherit from our view model base, which will give us access to that property changed. And so then if we start it again, we can type in some numbers, but you can still see that nothing actually changes, at least not in the view. In our main view, we're actually binding to the properties, the individual properties of the rectangle. So not really to the rectangle itself. So we actually need to be able to let the view know or let the UI know that those actual properties have changed. So in here, we actually need to raise that property changed event. To do that, we will just inherit from the observable object, and then that will give us access to the property changed. Okay, so I'll just copy that and paste this here. And then you can see that the perimeter and the area, these are just calculated fields. So they're just based off of whatever the length and the width are. So we can start this now. And still nothing changes. So we can test this though. So let's just add a breakpoint. We know that this is getting hit. We can see that the length was updated and even the perimeter has been updated, but the view is still not updated. So in order to do that, what we actually need to do is we need to be able to update the perimeter and the area, or we need to raise the property changed event for those as well. So because this is just a getter, so it's just a calculated field, we actually don't have a good way to do that in the perimeter and area. because we can pass in the string of the object or the name of the thing that we want to update, we can actually pass in the string form of the object. We wouldn't actually want the length. We would actually want to change that to parameter. But a more explicit way to do this would be to use name of. We will copy it and we'll change this to area, and then we'll copy all of this again because we also need to update those things, the perimeter and the area, when the width changes as well. So let's try this again. And so I'm just going to change this, and you'll notice like nothing changed, right? So the perimeter should have changed. The area would actually be 0 because it's that. We hit our breakpoint again. So but you notice it didn't actually change. So I hit tab. That was when it changed. So it didn't actually hit or raise that event until the focus changed away from the 2. Nothing actually gets updated until it loses focus. To change that, we're going to set this update source trigger to property changed. And we'll just do this for the length and the width, since those are our inputs. And as soon as we change this now, you can see I haven't hit tab or anything like that. You can see that it is being updated. So as soon as I put in a new number, those values change. We can actually just go ahead and remove this project. Let's add in a copy of the MVVM with Prism project that we used. And you can see we're using Prism. We have this pub sub event, and in our main view model, we're using BindableBase. In our structure details view model, we're using BindableBase. And so what we want to do in this video, the whole purpose of this particular video was to implement a substitute for the BindableBase. So what we want to do is we want to replace that. So we'll just copy this. We will replace that. And you can see that now this is complaining because we no longer have access to the set property. So what we actually need to do is we need to just set this value. And then we need to raise the property changed. And again, if we wanted to be explicit, we can pass this in, okay? But because of that caller member name, you don't need to do that, so that's fine. So we're in the structure details view model. Let's also do the same thing for this. So we'll need to inherit from the view model base instead. And then in the public properties, we need to update these. So I'll just do that really quickly. And let me go ahead and copy this. So we'll do that here. And we'll do this here. And actually, so thank you, Copilot. It figured out what I was trying to do, and it made those updates for us. In our setter, we're going to set the backing field to the value, and then we're going to raise the property change. So we actually need to add this here as well. And we also need to set this as the startup project. Forgot to do that. But anyway, so now we're setting our values, and then we're raising the property changed event for each of those. So let's hit start. Also, just to mention, this is a copy of the original project, but I did make a few changes already. I updated the name of it to MVVM without Prism. I changed all of the namespaces and everything, and then I added a title that says MVVM without Prism, just so that we can see the difference. And so we can see that everything still updates. So just to show that those changes are a result of adding this, let's just comment out a couple of these. So looks like structure set is still there. So some of those things still changed, but you can see now we don't get the selected structure. Anyway, so that's hopefully a good example. And so now in this video, we have been able to come up with a quick substitute for the BindableBase. And in the next video, we will cover event handlers and actions. We'll give examples of how we can use those as a substitute for Prism's pub sub event. With that, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.